Hello, today we'll be doing a Nano 5th Gen Ultimate Repair Guide. Last time we took a look at the Nano 4th Gen, and this one's pretty similar, although it's way better. It's like such an improvement on the design and everything. Because with the last one, you know, how we had the flex cables in the PCB, and it breaks in so many ways that you can't really fix. That's just not the case with this one, so let's get started and have a look. Alright, well, to take it apart, first we've got to start with taking off the top and bottom plastics, similarly to how we did on the Nano 4th Gen. So yeah, just get out your dull blade, or you could try with the plastic thing, but the blade always works better, as I've said before. So yeah, just be careful, put it under there and pry it up. It's pretty easy, but yeah, just be careful because it is thin, so you could snap it if you pry it up too hard or get it in one corner or something. Yeah, and the same on the bottom as well. And yeah, with the screws, they are in at a 45-degree angle as well, so just keep that in mind because it's kind of hard to tell without having done it before. And yeah, the screws are different as well. The two top ones are a bit shorter, and there's 3 on the bottom. I think there's a longer one in the middle and 2 shorter ones on the side. So just have like a parts tray or magnetic sheet or something to keep them sorted out. And yeah, you can use the tweezers to pull them out if they don't come out by themselves. And yeah, that top piece will come off just like that. But be careful because that ribbon cable is really thin and it can very easily snap if you're not paying attention. So yeah, just unscrew it like that. Yeah, and take that top piece off because it's kind of makes it heavier and makes it more likely to break. And yeah, to get the front glass off, you can use a bit of heat. I wouldn't use isopropyl alcohol if you're trying to get that off because if you get isopropyl alcohol behind the backlight, yeah, it doesn't dry up on this model. It'll just stay there and leave a watermark. So yeah, just avoid getting isopropyl alcohol anywhere near the LCD. Yeah, and just pull that up. It's only attached with adhesive. It comes off pretty easily. And yeah, we need to get that piece off as well because there is a little plastic thing underneath stopping the board from coming out. Yeah, and to get that off, just spray it with alcohol and heat it up with a heat gun, or if you only have a hairdryer you can use that as well. And be really careful because you can scratch the back if you slip or something. But yeah, you can either get a pin and pry it up from in there, or that works sometimes, but it didn't work in this video, in this case. So yeah, you can also use the blade, as I ended up doing. But yeah, just be careful because if you slip, it can leave a scratch. There you go. And yeah, it's that little white bit of plastic that goes straight through to the other side that you have to get out there. So just pull it up with the tweezers. Like that. And next we've got to take the buttons out, which is being held in by that little bracket at the bottom. Yeah, that's just held in there with 2 screws. Oh yeah, and there's also the screw in the headphone jack as well. And yeah, you can also see there's a bit of adhesive sometimes stuck in those screw holes, so you can just use the tweezers to pull that out of the way, because sometimes it can stop you from unscrewing it. Yeah, and metal tab is what holds in the click wheel there as well. So at this stage the click wheel should, sometimes it's stuck in there a little bit, but what you can do is get the tweezers and just put it in where that tab was and push from underneath, and that should hopefully get it up. This one's having a bit of trouble getting out. And yeah, that's just held in place with a flex cable that's attached with a one of those socket things, the little connectors. Yeah, so just pry that up with the plastic pry tool. And check it for water damage as well, because if you're having button clicking issues, it could just be because of water damage on that connector. And yeah, remove that black bit of plastic that's in the middle there. Doesn't really do anything. It's just sort of to hold it in place, I guess. And now we're nearly ready to take it out, but there is a bit of adhesive in between the battery and the frame, so what we can do is get the Disassembly tool and put it in between the back of the frame and the battery. You can spray it with some alcohol first as well, which can make it easier. You just don't want to puncture that battery at all. Yeah, now pushing down on the screen you can, or lightly at least, or gently pushing down on the screen you can slide that whole iPod out now. It comes out pretty easily. If you've got an expanded battery it might be a bit harder to get it out, but at that point usually the LCD will be broken anyway, so you can just, oh no, just pull it. Maybe I'll put some footage of an expanded battery getting that out. And yeah. Now to remove the LCD, you just peel back that Captain tape there. And it's just one of those simple connectors, which you can get out with your fingernail or the plastic tool. I use the tweezers, shouldn't really do that. Better if you use the plastic tool for that. But yeah, be careful of that ribbon cable, because there's that metal tab thing that goes over it, so you don't want to rip it or anything like that. And yeah, on this one we're just doing a battery replacement. So in order to remove the old battery, first turn it upside down and get that yellow bit of Captain tape off first. That's covering over the speaker flex cable, and that is very easy to snap, so yeah, just be careful there. Yeah, and then you can just simply peel back the battery and slowly peel the lock switch ribbon cable away from the battery as well, being very careful, because again that's very fragile and probably the thing that's most likely to break while doing this. And yeah, there's a bit of Captain tape over the battery connector, and yeah, the battery is soldered, so you will have to have a soldering iron to complete this repair. Yeah, and so in order to get that battery off, just put a bit of flux, well, I don't think I used any here, but you can, and just move that soldering iron back and forward over the balls, over the joints, and make sure those joints are all heated up when you take it off, because if they're not, sometimes you can pull the pad straight off, and that's no good. And yeah, you want to flatten those joints back out, because sometimes when you take it off they can be like big blobs of solder stuck on them, and when you go to put the new one in they can like merge together, especially if you're like not very experienced with soldering, or you're using like one of those cheaper soldering irons. So yeah, you just want to clean those pads up first, and then taking that new battery and putting it back on how it was before. But in this one I'm using a 4th gen battery, which you can still do. They're roughly the same size in terms of thickness and capacity, so if you've got a lot of 4th gen batteries you may as well just use one of those. All you have to do is flip the BMS around to the other side as I do here, and make sure that the thing is lined up properly. So yeah, to put that one back in, just line up the pads, hold it with the tweezers maybe just attach one pad at first so you can get it sort of stuck there, then do the other two, and then go back over them with some extra solder to get the blobs in there properly. But don't hit all the pads at once, because obviously it'll come off again. So yeah, and yeah, there we are. So as you can see, the 4th gen battery does fit pretty well. And yeah, you just want to give those joints like a little clean over with the isopropyl alcohol and like a Q-tip or something. Just be careful not to get any behind the LCD again, because it won't evaporate. And now before we put it back together, yeah, just do a little test outside of the iPod. Just plug those buttons back in. That's all you really have to do. And then plug it into the computer or a wall adapter or something. Should be all good. Oh yeah, sometimes it might turn on straight away. Oh no, just with these iPods, when you put a new battery in, you have to plug them into the wall. Like clicking the buttons won't turn them on. Just a little quirk of with most of these iPods. That's not just on this model, that's most of the Nanos really. And so, yeah, and the touches as well. So yeah, as you can see, it's turning on. Boots up, just check all the buttons working. Oh yeah, now's also a good time to check the headphone jack and check the radio as well. Because sometimes you can have a functional headphone jack, but the radio doesn't work. And sometimes that can be due to a faulty jack, or other times there can be water damage around that area. Yeah, but you'll be able to see that most of the time. Now to put the thing back together, first just get the lock switch in there first. Just being very gentle and careful because it's fragile. And then slide the screen in, making sure the battery's all straight and everything. There shouldn't be too much resistance going in, but yeah, just be careful. And when you get up to around the bottom, you might have to push down when the top of that metal frame gets in the click wheel position as well. But when you get down to where the logic board starts, that's when you got to be really careful, because some of the flex cable for the LCD can catch on that notch there. I'll put a picture of it, and it can rip pretty easily. It's happened a couple of times. So yeah, just be careful and slide that in. So you might have to like push down a little bit as well. Oh yeah, and you might want to put a piece of Captain tape over the LCD connector as well. Can make it a bit easier. Yeah, and then at the back you want to check for the speaker cable, as well as the flex cable on the battery, so that's not getting caught in the hole for the camera. And here's another method. You can just push it up against the side of a table and go in slowly like that. Sometimes that can be a bit better as well. Sometimes you feel like you got more control when you're doing it that way. Because you can monitor the stuff at the top with your fingers. So yeah, that's all the hard stuff over pretty much. First thing you want to do is make sure you put the screw in for the headphone jack, just so the whole assembly doesn't accidentally pull out on you. If you go to plug it in, forget that it's not screwed in, then you just rip it out. Sometimes you can damage everything. So yeah, make sure you get that screw in there right away. Yeah, now next you want to get the buttons back in there. Sometimes it can be a bit hard to get that clipped in there because it's just hard to position it, but yeah, just fiddle around with it. You don't want to force it because you can break those connectors pretty easily. You want to put it like menu button first, because there's like a little lip at the top that goes in there, and then take the bottom cover and place that in there so it secures the buttons in there, and then the two screws for those And yeah, the longer one goes in the middle hole. Although it's not really, if you accidentally put the screws in the wrong hole, it's not like you're going to break anything here. And yeah, now we want to get the top bit back on, because that lock switch is still dangling around there and we don't want to break that. So take that top piece. You don't have to take the screws all the way out for that as well. So on mine the screws are still in there and they're only loosened a bit. So just slip that back on, being careful, and then hold the whole thing in place while you screw it in, as I'm doing here. And yeah, that just simply goes back in. Yeah, and the two screws for the top are exactly the same. You don't have to worry about which one you're putting them in there. You may want to push down in the center a little bit as well so it doesn't bow up in the middle. Yeah, as I'm doing here, because that can happen sometimes. And that can cause lock switch issues, like it won't engage properly. Yeah, so there we go. The only thing to do now is to just reattach all those adhesive pieces, so the front glass, the camera cover, and the top and bottom plastics. This is a pretty tedious part. It takes quite a while if you want to get the adhesive on there properly, which you do want to do, because otherwise you just have to redo it again. So yeah, but yeah, you can give the iPod another test at this point as well. Everything should still work. Might be better to do that now than to attach all the other stuff and then realise it doesn't work. Yeah, when it comes to the top and bottom plastics, first just get all the old adhesive off, because it'll just be dirty if you don't do that, and it won't stick properly. So yeah, first just get all that old stuff off, and then yeah, just put on a new piece of adhesive and cut it out like how I'm doing in the video. But yeah, when it comes to the insides, like where those connectors are, you want to peel back all the adhesive, the new adhesive that you put on, sort of like how I do it in the video here. And that's just to prevent any adhesive getting into the ports and gunking those up, which will happen if you're not careful with it. So yeah. Yeah, and this part probably takes the longest out of the whole thing. This iPod would be pretty simple and straightforward, but I know it can take up like 40 minutes to an hour to fix this iPod just because of all these adhesive things that you have to stick on. And you have to get the adhesive like pretty perfect as well, otherwise you can have issues. So yeah, on the outside, the Nano 5th Gen and the Nano 4th Gen look nearly identical, with just the main difference being the finish, the fact that the 5th Gen's got a camera and a bigger LCD, but the way they're put together, completely different. The Nano 4th Gen has all sorts of issues with the flex cables being infused into the PCB, and it's just way more fragile and way less repairable than the 5th Gen. So the 5th Gen's what the 4th Gen really should have been in terms of repairability. And yeah, you've got a much better chance of getting it working again. So if you're on the fence about whether you should get a 4th Gen or a 5th Gen, I'd go with the 5th Gen 10 times out of 10. Especially now that it's like, coming on 15 years old, and if it doesn't already have a new battery, it'll probably need one in the next couple of years anyway if it's still functional. So yeah. So yeah, and then for the metal piece that goes over the camera, just make sure you get that white bit of plastic in there first. I mean, you could leave it out if you don't want it, but I don't know, I'll just put them back in. And yeah, for the just make sure you get all that old stuff off first. You couldn't just stick it back on how it is, because it all it's got no stickiness left to it. So just take that off, take the old stuff off, and give it a wipe down with the isopropyl alcohol again. Then put the new one on, cut around it, and you want to get like a pin or your tweezers and put a little hole in the middle there where the microphone slot is. And yeah, now just for the front glass, just gently peel off some of that old adhesive if that's still on there. Again, don't use any alcohol here because you don't want to damage that backlight. And don't push too hard either, because it is a bit of a fragile LCD. Yeah, and what I do, I've got this 1mm adhesive. I'll just put a strip at the two sides and one at the top on that glass. And make sure you give that glass like a really good wipe down as well. Getting all the adhesive off the sides, getting all the fingerprints off the glass. And then before you put the actual glass back on, give both the inside of the glass a wipe and the LCD screen a wipe, because otherwise you'll just have fingerprints on there forever and you have to open it back up. So yeah, just give that thorough clean, peel up the strips and put it back in there. Bottom first, because that's where there's like a nub in the glass and that goes at the bottom. And yeah, this stage you're pretty much done. Just the only thing left is to give it a wipe down with some isopropyl alcohol, give it a clean, and there you go. Good as new. Not really. Yeah, they're never really as good as they were when they're new, I find. They weren't really built with repair in mind. Usually what happens is the buttons just don't click as well after a while. It can be hard to get replacement frames and stuff as well, housings, so yeah. Oh well, it's pretty good. People still like them. People still use their iPods. Still a bit of a market out there for them. Oh yeah, we'll add some extra bits here. Oh yeah, so if your buttons aren't clicking, what you can do is you can give the pads a scrape and a wipe down, just like what we've done on the Nano 2nd Gen tutorial. So to do that, take that button assembly out, and first you want to unclip the white bit at the top from the metal, and be careful when you're doing that, because if you snap those plastic clips, can't really get them back, and then the buttons won't sit in there properly, so just be really careful. Yeah, and once you've got that opened up, just peel up those, that it looks like tape with like a little metal dome sitting underneath. Just peel that up on one side, and that'll reveal the dome for the button, and yeah, you'll see why it's not clicking. There'll usually be some sort of layer of corrosion or a bit of water damage or something, and if the pad's still intact and the dome's still good, all you have to do is give it a bit of a scrape down with the tweezers, and take some isopropyl alcohol, give it a wipe, and yeah, it should work again. But if it's severely water damaged at that stage, and like to the point where the pad isn't even intact, at that stage you'll just have to buy new buttons. So yeah, if one of them's not clicking, you may as well just go ahead and wipe down all 5 of them while you're in here, because yeah, chances are the other ones will probably have a bit of damage under them as well, but it just hasn't gotten severe enough yet to affect it from actually not clicking. But yeah, it's pretty easy. Takes a little while, but I don't know, it'll get them pretty good. Then yeah, just put it back together the same way it was, and yeah, it should work pretty well. Sometimes I find the clickiness isn't as good after you do this repair. Who knows why? Maybe it's hard to get that tape back in the exact same position as what it was previously or something. I don't know, but usually the clickiness doesn't feel as good. So if you want to go the extra step, you can just get a replacement click wheel off AliExpress or eBay or something. But yeah, this will usually fix it. It just won't click as well as before in terms of how it feels. The actual functionality will still be there. So yeah, and then just put that back in. It should be all good. Oh yeah, to remove the LCD, first take that connector off, and you got to be really careful with this. So we can't use any alcohol because the backlight doesn't recover from alcohol in this case. It does on every single other iPod model, but the Nano 5th Gen, if you get alcohol behind the screen, it just leaves a massive watermark and it won't come out. So yeah, in order to get that LCD out, you want to start from the top, just pry up on the metal, or really just watch what I'm doing, copy what I'm doing. It's kind of hard to explain, but yeah, this LCD is it's pretty fragile. So yeah, don't pry it too hard, don't bend it in any one direction too much, because you can easily snap it. Especially at the bottom there's a bit of adhesive at the bottom, where like the, I don't know what you'd call it, but like the electronics on the LCD are located. If you pry it from there, you can very easily snap it. So yeah, you can use the tweezers or the plastic tool to just get under there and sort of lift it, as I'm doing here. And yeah, it should just come out, and be really careful of that ribbon connector, because again, that's pretty easy to snap as well, or tear. And yeah, for a broken backlight, you just want to inspect the pins on both the LCD and on the logic board. If there's a bit of water damage, sometimes it can be a matter of just toothbrush and alcohol. Sometimes it could be resoldering the connector, which for that you'll need like a hot air rework station. But that works pretty often. I've done that before. Yeah, but sometimes it could just be replacing the LCD as well. So yeah, just whatever works. Just try a bunch of different stuff and you'll find out what the issue is. So if the battery's expanded, it can be pretty challenging to get out here. What I usually do is I just push down on the glass, or not the glass, yeah, the LCD glass sort of thing. Just push down as you're moving it out the bottom there, sort of like a down and forward motion. You'll be able to get it out most of the time. Sometimes you'll have to just give up on getting it out in one piece, and you'll just have to rip the board out by itself, and that'll rip all the flex cables and all of that, and you'll have to replace all that stuff as well. But I guess another method you could try is to pop the battery and then just take it out normally. But if you do that, go outside for popping the battery, because yeah, if you don't know what an exploding lithium ion battery looks like, I'll just put the video in right here. Yeah, you don't want that happening inside. But yeah, that should only happen if there's like a massive charge in there. Often in cases when you've got an expanded battery, it's because it's completely dead. So if there's 0 volts in the battery, you can probably pop it and it'll probably be fine. I still wouldn't do it. I still don't really recommend it, but still you could. And yeah, oh yeah. So if you've got a bad headphone jack or a bad lock switch, you can replace that whole flex all in one go. Yeah, so just order another one of those online, or you can just poach one from another iPod. And what you'll need to do is first unsolder the speaker there, and then slide that logic board out of that metal housing. Just being careful. You might, yeah, you have to pull the microphone out of the way, because the microphone's also on that flex cable. So yeah, just pull that whole thing out of the way there. You can tuck the microphone in between that little hole. Yeah, and then there'll be a screw. Just undo that screw, and then you can pull it up. It's just one of those simple connectors again there. And yeah, inspect for water damage, because if there's water damage there and you've gotten like a bad headphone jack, it mightn't be the jack, it might be the actual, just the connector itself there because of the water damage. But yeah, still try that out. Yeah, and if you've got any water damage at all, you can either try in an ultrasonic cleaner if you've got one of those handy, but no, most normal people don't just have one of those sitting around the house. So toothbrush and alcohol is the next best bet. Yeah. And yeah, just to put it all back together, it's the same way it came apart. Just put the screw in, put the metal frame back on, resolder the speaker there, and it'll be fine. So thanks for watching. If you liked it, subscribe. I know I've been banging on about my library page that I still haven't made, but still, I'll make it at some stage. Check out the other tutorials. I've got like a Nano 4th Gen one and Nano 2nd Gen one. Yeah, if you want to buy one of these iPods, I sell refurbished ones on eBay. You can just get one from there. Also got a website as well. If you want me to repair it, just send me a message. I got a contact email down there. Australia only though, that is. And yeah, thanks. See you next time.